This is Root Literacy Design, where we share stories, tips, and tools for educators implementing evidence-based literacy. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel so we can keep helping educators like you. Let's go over the 44 sounds of the English language. This is important because we're going to see students make misspellings, and oftentimes it's not because they don't know how to spell, it's because they actually are not hearing the correct sound. And we know that the brain, when learning how to read, is connecting letters to sounds. And so sounds are the foundation of everything. Your brain will not be able to decipher which letters connect to a sound that it does not hear correctly or cannot recognize, or that the student can't produce themselves. So we want to make sure that we are explicitly teaching these 44 sounds, and that we are teaching when you hear the sound B, this letter, B makes the sound B. And every time you hear B, you are writing a B. Now, that's very explicit teaching. That's what we want to be doing. It's not helpful, however, if the student can't hear the difference between B and D or P. And so we have to look out for their confusion, and one way to catch it is in their spelling. So you'll often see students write fan for van, for example. Why do we see that all the time? That they're writing an F for a V or vice versa, or a P for a B, and that sort of a thing. And so there's a reason why. We're going to go over what that is today. We're going to go over the 44 sounds. I'll pronounce them for you. And I'll teach you some tricks and things to look out for as you are working with your students. So first, very quickly, let's talk about the word phoneme to help it stick in your brain. Phon means sound. So the word telephone is tele is across and traveling. So it's a telephone enables sound to travel across space. EME is the smallest unit of. So this word phoneme is actually the smallest unit of sound, and we have 44 of them. All right, so let's dive in. The first thing we're going to do is going to look at consonant sounds. I will run through and say them for you. You will notice that I am not adding the schwa sound or the at the end. So I'll say a couple incorrectly for you so you can hear the difference, and then I will dive in and say them correctly. So incorrect sounds like this: pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga, fa, ma. I'm adding that sound. We do not want to do that when we're teaching these to our students. We want to make sure that we are saying the sounds correctly. Otherwise, you're going to start to see your students writing a U next to these letters. They'll spell pat as P-U-A-T because they're hearing p at. So here's the correct way to say them. B, t, d, g, f, n, s. Those are the first 10. All right, let's go on. So I'll say these incorrectly for you because I think it's really helpful to hear the difference. Va, ha, za, ja. That's incorrect, adding the sound. Here's what they sound like clipped. That's what we want. It's clipped. We're just giving the pure sound. V, ha, z, j, w, y, l, r, n, and zh. So in the middle here, we have graphemes. Again, we know EME means smallest unit of. Graph has to do with a visual, something that is drawn out or made on paper, or, not necessarily on paper anymore. But here are the symbols or graphs, the pictures that we use to show the sounds. So the sound P can be spelled as P, or two P's can represent that single sound P. And so here's an example of what's going on the right. We have pig and shopping. And the reason the P is doubled, but we're not saying P, we're just saying the sound P, is because of something called the doubling rule, which we're not going to get into right now. But this whole sheet is very helpful because it shows you the sound, the graphemes that the ways that the sounds can show up in our writing system. That's what a grapheme is. And then examples built in over here. So let's talk about some of the tricky ones for students. Some of the tricky ones are this sound here, the R sound. This is not the same as ER. the sound. And so one thing that I like to do with students to help them hear this sound and how it's different than is you can place the sound at the start of a word and show them the difference. So it's very easy for our brains to pick up on sound when it's the first sound in a word. So if we look at this word here, rat, we do not say rat. I'm not I'm not seeing an rat. It's rat. If we look at the word red or run, we don't say red, run. It's just red, run. So it's not that sound. So be careful when you're doing this with students, when you're tapping to guide them to spell. You're not going to say at. It's at. And if you say it incorrectly, your brain will pick up on it more. Rat, 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 rat. You can hear the difference. This sound, a lot of teachers I work with have a hard time with. Just keep practicing it. That's all I can say. It takes practice. You can really hear it if you hold out the vowel and then say the sound. So for example, sing, sing, sink. So if you kind of hold the first part of the word and the vowel sound, then you can hear that last sound pretty clearly, the ng sound. And when you're forming that, the back of your tongue is coming up and hitting the roof of your mouth and dropping down. So pay attention to what is happening when you're articulating these sounds. Are you using your lips, your tongue, your teeth? Where is your tongue? That sort of a thing. That will be helpful for you and your students. And I'm going to make another video on articulation, but this one will get too long if I build it all into one. The ZH is the zh. This represents the zh sound, and these are different ways that it is spelled, like garage, measure, division. All right, so now we are going to talk about consonant digraph sounds. So here are the next four sounds. They're pronounced ch, sh, and v. So the only difference between these two sounds is one is voiced and one is unvoiced. So students have a hard time hearing the difference. You're also going to see they confuse the voiced TH with V and F. So they might spell this as VIS, or even FIS. And we'll talk about all those confusions in a moment and what's going on. So one way you can guide them is to put their hands over their ears and say both sounds. And if you could pause the video and try that yourself, you will hear your voice coming on. The hands over the ears is a trick a friend of mine who is a vocalist said that they work on. So thanks to her for teaching me that trick. It works so well with students, and they think it's so funny when you say, put your hands over your ears, and is your voice on or is it voice off? Which sound are we making? The short vowel sounds are a, I, ah. The long vowel sounds are a, e, I, o, u. A lot of us say that the vowel says its name when we're saying the long vowel sounds and teaching those to students. Other vowel sounds are oo, like in food, like in cook or push or book, aw, like in August or saw. So another thing to be aware of is what sounds of the English language are hard for you. So me personally, this sound here, the O sound, I did not know how to say it, and I couldn't even hear it until about 3 years ago. And what pushed me to learn it is I had to start teaching this to teachers. And I said, how can I teach it to teachers if I can't even hear it or say it myself? And so I worked with 3 different speech pathologists, and the woman who finally made it click for me in my brain, where I could actually hear the sound for the first time, she pulled me to my mouth. And what she noticed about me is I don't ever say the O sound. I say ah like a short O. So if I said paw or law, I'm not saying them with the O sound. I am saying them as a short O. And so she picked up on that and she said, Heather, watch my face and then feel your face. It should come out like a fish. Ooh, like your lips will pull out. And so I'm looking at her going, whoa, pull. And I'm like, whoa, I've never noticed that before. And then she told me to pull my face out like that, like a fish. And as soon as I did that, I started laughing because my face had never done that before and it felt really strange. So just be aware. My family's from outside Boston. My dad grew up in Attleboro. They don't say the "oh" sound. I didn't grow up hearing it in my household. That's why that's what's going on here. Um, and so just be aware of your own like language and which ones are going to be hard for you. All right. So the next two sounds are oi and ow. And then we have these vowel R sounds. This is the one that's often confused with the R, the R sound. We have R, or, air, and ear. One more trick I want to teach you for the difference between the ER and the R, the and the R, is if you teach students to put their hand on their stomach, right here on their abdomen, as they say each sound, and r, they will feel their abs tighten when they're doing the r sound. And some teachers like to say it's like a car engine, r, like revving up. But when you say this sound here, the the sound, your abs do not tighten. So I like to say too, the kids find it funny if I say, you got to do your ab workout. We're getting our ab workout today. Everybody tighten up, put your hand on your stomach. Ready? Roar, at. And they can feel their abs tighten. And then have them say it incorrectly too. Have them say at. So they can feel the difference between their abs on, abs off. And then just jump between these two sounds, and they'll feel it tighten and loosen, and then they're laughing and they're having fun. And I've done this with middle schoolers and even high schoolers, and they are laughing and having fun. So let them feel it in their bodies. It's amazing how much sound, like how much of our bodies are used when we make sound. The last little tip here, the AIR and the EAR, pronounced air and ear. I used to think this was two phonemes. I thought it was A-er and E-er. So I thought it was the sound A with this one here, number 40, and the sound E with number 40, the er. So A-er, E-er. That is not correct. What's happening is this is articulation, the articulation effect where the sounds are blending very clearly. If you say it incorrectly, you'll hear the difference. So we don't say, I need some air. Give me some air. It's air. One sound, air, not a-er. It's not two phonemes combining here. Same thing with spear. It's not spear, it's spear. So, that was new for me because when I was having students tap out for sounds when I first started as a reading specialist, I was incorrectly telling them it's two taps, and then teaching it wrong. So you want to make sure it's one tap, air. What spells air? These are the spellings for air right here. So why are we're almost done, so hang in there with me. Thank you. Why are we seeing all these errors from students? What's happening is they're formed similarly. And so that's the confusion. So all of these sounds that are together in one box, they're formed very similarly. And so that's how students are mixing them up. Look at the F and the V, for example, because we've talked about that a couple times. This is what's known as a fricative, so the manner of articulation, how the phoneme sound is made. It's a fricative, and then it's labial dental. Now, I don't ever remember what all these terms mean. The important thing is to know what is your mouth doing and what is going on with your airflow and your voice for these words. So you want to pay attention to is where your lips, your tongue, your teeth, that sort of a thing. How is your air being blown? Is your voice on and your voice off? All right, let's talk about these two sounds and why they're so confusing. Say them with me. And v. And let's pay attention to your lips, tongue, teeth, airflow, and your voice. Okay, let's go. Your lips, what are they doing for each sound? Mm. We have our bottom lip as part of this sound. Our teeth are sitting on it. That makes sense. It's a labial dental, so we know the teeth are on the lip. All right, so that's your lips and your teeth. Let's pay attention to our tongue. It's doing the same exact thing. It's just hanging out in the middle of our mouth. It's not doing anything to form these sounds. What about our airflow? If we put our hand in front of our mouth, we can feel air coming out in both sounds. Both of these sounds are in this box because they are articulated the exact same way. What is different then? Well, let's notice that this sound is in the same line as unvoiced, and the second sound is in the same line as voiced. So the only difference is one of these sounds is voiced and one is not voiced. So if we cover our ears and make each sound, you can hear that your voice is coming on and activating for this second sound. So if you have a student who's spelling fan as van, you do not need to sit with them and teach them letters. You need to sit with them and help them hear the difference between these two sounds because that's what's going on. And so then you want to guide them to their lips, tongue, teeth, airflow, voice on, voice off. Is it on? Is it off? That's what you're asking them, like we just did together. And you can have them actually cover their ears and say for fan or for van, and you have to teach them the v sound is voiced. We spell that with a V. So you're going to actually start prompting them and say, is your voice on? Is your voice on? Or is your voice off? And then you want them to start figuring out, oh, my voice was on, right? Which one of those sounds is voiced? Is it f or v? Or you might say, hey, everyone in the class, cover your ears. Say v. Is your voice on? Yes. What do we spell that with? V. Okay. Did I say van or did I say fan? So those conversations with them. And so you're really what you're doing is you're paying attention to the areas that are articulated, the phonemes that are articulated the same, and what could cause confusion for the students. So this is a very important chart to be aware of because these are the common confusions that you're going to see with the students. All right, so I hope that this video was helpful for you. Thank you for all you do.